I believe you can be pro-Palestinian and pro-Israel without being pro-Hamas. I think it's dangerous for my colleague Larry, who's a fellow lawyer, and for my colleague Armstrong to paint the Israeli-Palestinian conflict or Hamas war with broad brushes. You cannot avoid or you cannot disagree that the Palestinian people are suffering. They're being starved. They've been bombed out. There's no more Gaza, if you will. I get that part. And what Hamas did was fundamentally wrong on October 7th, and I will never support violence in any way, shape, or form. There are many Jewish groups and Jewish people who stand with the Palestinians and what they have suffered as a result of Hamas, not necessarily Israel, but they blame Israel because they've been bombed out of their homes. I think it's important to own and embrace those distinctions, if you will, and to say that the individual who shot the two people last night, that individual was mentally ill. One, he was pro-Hamas and pro-Palestine, and he ought to go to jail for that. But to label the protests and to label the protests at universities and what we've seen in the last couple of years as pro-Hamas protesters, that's just fundamentally unfair. Because you're right, there is a group with it that infiltrated that group that said those things, no doubt about it, and are pro-Hamas supporters. But I would argue with you that the majority of these supporters for Palestine are not supporters of Hamas, because Hamas is responsible for a large part of their degradation that they're going through right now. They blame Israel, if you will, for the bombings, but Hamas are hiding within the Palestinian people, causing this devastation. That is not, I completely own that part of it. But I think the discussion is far too complicated, and I hope we're not painting groups of people with broad brushes, because the war itself and the ongoing issues between Palestine or Palestinians and Israelis are far too complicated for that.